Alright, so today we're going to take a look at Laowa's 9mm f2.8 0D for Fuji. Okay, so hi, this is Dylan again. Welcome back to Seoul. I was going to take you up a small mountain today so we could get a view over the city as we did this, but as you can see, air quality isn't what it used to be. Spring here is pretty hazy, so yeah, we're going to have to cut that out for today, and we'll sit here in this lovely little park to have a chat about Laowa's 9mm f2.8. Alright, so we got this little guy mounted on the Fujifilm X-T2. As you can see, it's a pretty small lens. It's roughly about the same size as the 23mm f2. It's a little fatter at the end here, but otherwise it's about the same size. All metal construction makes this thing feel really good, especially for the price point. I mean, I think this is $499 US at the moment. This little guy feels a lot more expensive than that. Metal hood, metal body, metal mount, all really, really well made, and fits perfectly to the Fujifilm body, which is great. Little blue ring here. You know, some of you are going to be a fan of it. I'm not. I prefer the all black of the Fuji lenses. The other thing is the aperture ring. This could just be because this is the prototype, but it turns the opposite way to Fujifilm lenses, which took a little bit of getting used to. I took it into Fujifilm Korea, and the marketing manager there picked it up, and the very first thing she did was turn it to f22 and wonder why the shutter speed was so long. She was trying to open it all the way up, so it is the opposite direction, and it's kind of in the beginning a little bit difficult to get used to, but not a biggie. Alright, so at the end of it you have a 49mm filter thread. In my experience, you're going to need thin filters, the slim filters for this thing, because it's just so wide that you end up seeing the filter. Now, when I was down at Tongyong with my bud Roy shooting some oceanscapes there, I didn't have a 49mm filter at the time, and so I was actually using a 52mm ND1000, and I had to screw in a small step-up filter, for a step-up ring for the filter, and even with the wider filter, because of its thickness, I could actually see the corners of the filter in the corners of the frame. So I had to crop everything in. There was no real correcting that. So you're going to want slim filters, or you're going to want square filters to go on this so that you'll be able to mount them outside of the lens, hopefully with a very slim profile on your filter mount. The other thing that I sort of did to get around that while I was down in Tongyong was to actually tilt the camera up slightly and just dangle the filter off here with a piece of tape on it. That solved my issues for a little while there, and so I was able to get some shots which you'll see rolling through this video. Alright, so maybe the first question that I had when this lens arrived was, you know, what's the difference between that 10 to 24mm and this? Just how much wider is this thing? 1mm is, you know, you can turn it on a zoom lens and you'll see that it makes a bit of a difference, but at the wide end, 1mm is huge. This thing is significantly wider than the 10 to 24mm. I'll throw a comparison up for you guys now, just to see. And you can see that down in the corners, just how much more you get in the frame. On both sides, you're going to be seeing significantly more, but you'll also notice that things that are a little further away from the camera are significantly further away from the camera with this lens. That 1mm really does make a huge difference. So if you're looking for something wide, this might be the way to go. So one other concern that you might have is that you're actually going to have to manual focus this guy. For people who are used to autofocus lenses, this is going to be a little bit of a learning curve, but Fujifilm has a couple of modes inside here, the autofocus assist modes, that will allow you to basically show what's in focus and what's not. You can use the split screen, and you can also use the focus peaking to figure it out. The other thing is, with a lens this wide, the inherent depth of field is really deep, and you're going to be shooting this thing f8, f11 a lot for landscapes or cityscapes and things like that. So manual focus really isn't that difficult to get used to on this. It's not like shooting something like the Mitacon 35mm 0.95 or something like that, where you've got a longer focal length and a seriously narrow depth of field. This thing isn't that hard to manual focus, so that's not really an issue. The full name of this lens is the Laowa 9mm f2.8 0D. Now 0D, the D stands for distortion, and basically what Laowa has been able to achieve here is having zero distortion at close focus distances and also far focus distances. So you can basically guarantee that lines, it's something like less than 0.5% of distortion in this lens, so you can guarantee that straight lines will remain straight no matter how close to them you are, no matter how far from them you are. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about image quality. Wide open, it's pretty sharp in the middle. You're going to get plenty of detail rendered there. The corners start to fall off quite a bit, and wide open there is a huge vignette. Huge. We'll throw up a couple of examples here, but just at an estimate I'm going to say 2 or 3 stops at least. It's pretty dark in those corners. The good thing about that is though, it is pretty linear, so you can just drag the slider in your favorite editing program and you'll be able to pull it back out again. But if you are shooting a rather dark scene, you're not going to record a lot of detail in that vignetted area. As you stop the lens down, sharpness grows towards the corners, and by f11 it's pretty sharp. I mean, if you're going to be shooting landscapes or something, you're going to be stopped down to that. Architecture, you're going to be stopped down to that anyway, so you should be able to get sharp from corner to corner. The vignette does stay all the way up to 22. I'm still seeing a bit of a vignette in the corners. By 8 or 11, it's not so bad. It's only, between half a stop and a stop, which is, that's perfectly correctable. But on the Fuji system, where you might be used to, say, the camera's automatic corrections of all the lenses that you put onto it, having that vignette, it's just an extra step in post-processing that you have to deal with. Not a huge issue, but it's worth noting. One other unique thing to a few of Laowa's lenses is that they do have what they call a frog eye coating on the front of it. And that's a hydrophobic coating on the front element that should prevent water droplets from forming on the front of the lens. In my experience, it doesn't work all that well on this lens. As you can see here, most of the water runs directly off, but a few beads still do form on the front of the lens. So if you've enjoyed the review, guys, give us a thumbs up below. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments. There's also a link below if you want to pick one of these guys up. They're on pre-order from Laowa right now. It does help to support the channel, so please get it from there if you can. Thanks again for watching.